Hey there guys, Mikey here, and welcome to the first episode of Old to the New, where we look at old movies and we look at their remakes. So today's film we're going to look at is The Wolfman, both the 1941 version and its 2010 remake. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So, as I said, the original Wolfman was released in 1941. It was directed by George Wagner. It stars Lon Chaney Jr. as the titular character, Claude Rains, Evelyn Ankers, Ralph Bellamy, Patrick Knowles, and even Bela Lugosi. Yes, Dracula himself makes an appearance in this film, but don't get too excited. It's not actually Dracula. If anything, this is more of a cameo by him than anything. So, if I'm being honest, I was genuinely surprised when I bought this film that it was still as entertaining as it was. The characters were still pretty interesting. The story wasn't that hard to follow. It was pretty standard. I mean, you have Lon Chaney Jr. You have Lawrence Talbot, played by Lon Chaney Jr., who comes home after hearing about his brother's death and kind of reunites with his estranged father. And while there, he's actually attacked and bitten by a wolf, and that wolf actually turns out to be a werewolf. And because he's bitten, he turns into a werewolf himself, and then the horrors ensue. So, in the beginning of this film, there's a few issues with it, but overall, I really still like this film. I watched it right before actually making this video, and just to see, is it still entertaining? Is it still holding up? I bought this film back when I heard that there was a remake coming out, and I was like, I don't actually have the original, and I haven't seen it in a while, so I just went out and bought the original. It was a special edition. You get his 2 discs and stuff like that, and, back when the DVDs had their special editions and everything, now everything's Blu-ray and stuff like that. So, but I went out and bought it, and I watched it, and I was like, wow, this is still good. This is still good. It's not scary by any means, obviously, because, the effects and everything is pretty dated. If I'm being really honest, it came out in 1941. Some of this stuff is not going to scare you. So yeah, the effects are dated. You can tell the budget probably wasn't that big, but the effect of the movie was still there. The heart of the movie is still there. There's a few issues. For instance, like when everyone's really introduced. You get introduced to Lawrence Talbot. You get introduced to John Talbot. You introduced to Meg, who kind of plays the quote-unquote love interest. Once they mention the word werewolf in the film, it never stops being talked about, to the point where it's actually a little bit annoying. And they just keep saying, like, oh, werewolf, werewolf, werewolf. And it's as if the movie is constantly reminding you, hey, there's a werewolf. There's a werewolf in this movie. There's werewolves. We have werewolves. Hey, it's a nice day out, but we have werewolves in this movie. But it's just like, okay, I get it. I get it. You don't have to keep telling me that. I know there's werewolves in this movie. The other thing that I really kind of liked about it was that these people seemed very regular and even kind of boringly so. But I kind of liked that they were kind of boringly regular. They were just people. And, it just kind of made me relate to them a little more. They were just kind of like, oh, well, random stuff here. There was a scene between Lawrence and Meg Gwen, that I'm just kind of, it was funny, because if this were to take place today, Lawrence would be in jail. Lawrence would be in jail. He would have got pepper sprayed or something. If you watch the movie, you'll know what scene I'm talking about. But it's really when they're first interacting and Lawrence is wooing Gwen, as you may. And it's just kind of awkward and creepy now, but back then I'm guessing that's how things were and that's how they act. But now it's just kind of like, this is really awkward and creepy, and I'm calling the cops. Yeah, or he would have got pepper sprayed or something. It's just like, it was kind of creepy. But it was kind of funny to see that, because you realize, yeah, some of this stuff would not fly today. So So we're introduced to some gypsies come to town. They're there for entertainment purposes, and one of the gypsies is played by Bela Lugosi, and he is actually the werewolf. And when he's there, like Lawrence and Gwen and another friend go to see Bela Lugosi character, the gypsy, and to get their fortune told. And Lawrence just like, hey, your friend's getting her fortune told. Let's go have a little passionate necking in the forest. I don't know who does that, but hey, I mean, it is what it is. Now, there's one thing I will say about this. You don't really get a sense of where they are. And like movies have definitely gotten better about this over the years and everything, but you don't really get a sense of where they really are. It's like one second they're in like the city, and it looks like pretty much an American city, and I hate to say that because they're supposed to be in Wales, but But you feel like, okay, this is feel like just a standard American city. It looks like, old time Chicago or something. But then they're all of a sudden they're in a forest, and it's just like, this doesn't match where they really were. It is kind of hard to get a sense of that, where they are. But, you just kind of roll with it after a while. And, they just kind of go off into the woods, and Bela Lugosi sees the pentagram in the palm of the person that he's, his fortune is. He sees the pentagram in the palm of the person whose fortune he's telling, and he realizes like, oh, and that's one of the lores of this particular film is like, you see that pentagram, that's your next victim, that's who you're going to kill, that's who the wolf is going to kill. And he's like, you need to go, you need to leave, get away. But unfortunately he transforms and kills the lady, and Lon Chaney, keep calling him Lon Chaney, but Lawrence runs up and sees what's happening and tries and fights off the wolf, and in the process he gets bit, but manages to kill the wolf. Now, here's the thing, like, you as a viewer know what happened, but the characters in this, when the police go to start investigating, obviously, when you kill a wolf, they turn back. They try to kill a werewolf. When you kill a werewolf, they turn back to their normal human self. So that's what happened when the police got there. They saw a human body that had been, he got his head smashed by a blunt object or whatever. That's what they saw. But obviously Lawrence fought off a wolf. You saw, the viewer, you saw that he was fighting off a wolf. You knew he got bit in the chest and everything. But they come there and they're just like, well, we see wolf prints, so we know that we see the body of the person that was mauled by the wolf, but you don't see, they see the fortune teller, and they're just like, what happened? They are just confused. And it was interesting that this was kind of a mystery, even though you, the viewer, know what happened. It was kind of interesting to sit back and watch them try to process what actually happened here. It's just like we understand it was dark out and stuff like that. He's like, no, I killed a wolf. I didn't kill a man. I killed a wolf. And they're just like, well, we're just trying to get our, cover all our bases and everything like that. And it was really interesting to see them try to make some type of sense of what happened. Because obviously there was some animal in the woods, but there's also a dead guy. And, like there's marks and stuff that resemble the stick that he had and everything. He asked him, like, hey, is this your stick? And it's actually a stick that has a wolf's head, a silver wolf's head on it. And that's what killed him, the silver from the wolf's head. But it's like, he's like, yeah, this is my stick. And I used it on the wolf. I didn't use it on a man. I swear I didn't. So it's kind of like, it's interesting to see that. And Lawrence's character in here is more of a victim. He doesn't really realize what's going on. He doesn't really understand up until the night where he actually transforms. And I will admit, as transformations go, it's, a bunch of fades and like, okay. It was funny because like he takes off his socks and he sees how hairy his legs and stuff are. And I was immediately reminded of Robin Williams. I know that's bad, but Robin Williams is a hairy man. Just like where because you've seen Robin Williams in a short sleeve shirt. And he's got so much hair on his arms. Like golly, he's a very hairy man. So that's why it was kind of funny. But it's a bunch of fades and like there's as they're kind of like they apply a little bit of the makeup and hair to them, it fades again. You can kind of tell like okay, they're just applying makeup and they're just fading to show like the transformation and everything. And then they show him walking off, and he's kind of walking off on like his tiptoes and stuff, like a dog or a wolf type animal would walk. They're all walking on their pads, and it has one of the cinematically probably one of the coolest reveals. Even though, like, yes, it's not scary anymore, but it's one of the cooler reveals. Like, you gotta understand, like, when that one came out back in the day, that was pretty cool. So, like, he's just, like, he's walking along the woods and everything, and then, like, the camera's kind of following him, and then he gets behind a tree, and then he kind of jumps out, he's like, "Rrr, rrr," and I'm like, if I saw that back in the 40s, I'd probably crap myself, so a little bit. But, seeing it now, it's just like, obviously, this is just a person in makeup and everything. And they do a good job with the makeup. I mean, for back then, that's really good. I mean, they didn't have CGI and stuff back then to enhance things. They didn't have the technology or the know-how that they do today to do things like to do better practical effects and stuff like that. But for back then, hey, it looks pretty good. Now, keep in mind, again, this is back in the 40s, so you don't have blood and gore or anything. It's talked about, but you never see it. And in my opinion, that's enough. Like I said, it's one of those, like, it's definitely a product of its time. So, it's a lot of things like you kind of give a pass to. Like, you give a pass to, like, the sets and stuff like that. You give a pass to some of the dialogue that happens, especially between Gwen and Lawrence and stuff like that. And what was interesting about it was, like, Lawrence knows. Once he goes out and he kills for the first time, excuse me, sweating. Once he goes out and he kills for the first time, he knows it in his heart that he knows I went out and did this, but he is extremely terrified. He doesn't know who to tell. He doesn't know who to talk to. He's asking people opinions about, like, hey, do you really believe in werewolves? And everyone's just like, no, that's just a product of, it's all in people's heads and stuff like that. Even his father says, like, this is all in people's heads. I believe it. He believes, like, okay, anything can happen in your mind, but as far as like this stuff being real, no. So like he doesn't want to come forward with it, but unfortunately, there's this climactic scene where he transforms and his father is forced to kill him, and his father doesn't even know it's him. He just knows that there's a wolf, and he beats him with the same stick. Kind of poetic, right? He beats him with that same stick, and then he dies, and then he's just he goes back to his normal human self, and he sees that as his son. And it's pretty tragic in that regard, but that's how the movie ends. That's how it really ends. It's pretty tragic. So, all in all, like I said, I was actually surprised by how entertaining this movie was. And I still enjoy it to this day. Like I said, I watched it right before making this video, and I was just like, wow, this is still pretty good. So that being said, let's get into the 2010 remake. So The Wolfman in 2010 was directed by Joe Johnston, and it stars Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt, and Hugo Weaving. Now, like I said, when I heard this movie was coming out, I was kind of like, oh, interesting. And even the trailers looked a little bit scary. And I was like, this might be a good, nice little update to it. I mean, I don't remember in the trailers that much. I didn't watch the trailer before doing this video, but like, if I remember correctly, they didn't show much of the wolf. But I knew that by like the shadows and stuff that they did show, it was very much a callback to the original. And it pretty much opens in the same way, in a sense, once the film gets going. Now, obviously, there's the opening scene where, like, you actually witness the brother get killed in this one. And it's very much like, you see it, and it's very much like the way he's walking. It's the way the wolf is walking. You're like, oh, okay, they're calling back to the original because they're showing walking on the pads and everything like that. And you see a glimpse of the wolf, but it's really fast. It's like rah, and it's like cut to the Wolfman, and then go on to for the rest of the story. Now it's like, again, the only difference is, like, you see the brother get killed in this one, and then it's the same basic premise. Lawrence hears about his brother getting killed, so he goes, played by Benicio del Toro, so he goes home and to see what's the what. And the only difference is this one is that Gwen, Emily Blunt's character, actually goes to fetch Lawrence and tell him, like, hey, your brother died. We need you back here. We need you at home. So he goes back home kind of reluctantly because he doesn't want to deal with his father. And yeah, the first time you see Anthony Hopkins, who plays the father, plays Sir John, yeah, obvious bad guy is obvious. You pretty much kind of gather right from when you see him, and even through his performance, it's look, Anthony Hopkins is one of the best actors out there. So, but like I said, his performance, it was cold and almost dead at times, and at times it worked, but at other times it was kind of distracting. But again, it kind of like dulled, because like, okay, you're a bad guy. I know this. You're making it a little bit too obvious that you're a bad guy, to the audience anyway, and it's kind of like makes you wonder, just like, okay, can you not tell? Can you guys not tell right now that this is the obvious bad guy is a bad guy right now? Come on. So there's that. But, you kind of overlook that a little bit. The same basic thing happens where Lawrence is attacked by a wolf. He gets bitten and everything. The only problem is with this movie, one of the biggest problems with this movie, is that it's a slow build. The scenes are good, but it's too slow. It is incredibly slow, and I usually tell people, if you're gonna watch The Wolfman, don't watch it at night. It's not because it's scary; it's because it'll make you fall asleep. It's too slow, and then watching it, upon rewatching it, I haven't watched it in a couple of days, but like upon rewatching it, it's just like, why? You don't need this scene in there. I mean, these scenes are good, but they're not necessary, and it just makes everything drag. And you don't really want that in The Wolfman. In the original Wolfman, you introduce the characters, something happened, and you start getting right into it. Okay, let's get the ball rolling and everything. Excuse me. This one takes a while to get the ball rolling, and man, do you feel it. You feel it through this movie. And I don't want to say the characters aren't interesting, but they aren't. I feel like some scenes overstay their welcome. It's like, okay, I've seen this, okay, let's go. And you haven't gone, you're still here or whatever. So that's one of the biggest problems with this movie. It's really slow. But once it gets going, once it finally got going, it's pretty entertaining. The only problem is with this, I keep saying the only problem, but another problem with the movie is the gore. The gore was just over-gorified. It was too much. The original kind of focused on what you couldn't see. It focused on screams. And there are some good, chilling moments in here where the wolf will attack, the original wolf, attacks people, but then it's just like, once you you're showing a little bit too much now, and like I said, it overstays its welcome, and it's just like, the initial shock of something like somebody get grabbed, it's like, rah, and it's like, oh, and you get grabbed, you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden you see him like chewing them up and eating them and stuff, just like, I don't need to see all that. I mean, the grab and him being grabbed and strung away or kick the camera, sorry, but like him being grabbed and snatched up or something like that made me jump. That made me chill, or it gave me a chill or something down my back or something. And then when you show him getting eaten is just kind of like, oh well, it's kind of like, meh, okay, that's just gross now. It's just gross, and like I said, things that just kind of like, there's a lot of scenes, there's a lot of instances that just overstays its welcome, and it kind of bogs the movie a little bit, and I hate it for that because this potentially could have been a really good movie. And I gotta go into this, like, once Lawrence gets bit, things start to not make sense story-wise. People are all of a sudden blaming him for what happened, and in the gypsy camp or whatever, and all the deaths that happen. All of a sudden they're just kind of like, oh, it was him, he bears the mark of the beast, he must be killed or whatever. I'm like, where is this coming from now? What is going on? What? Because some old random dude told a story in a tavern about a potential werewolf. He never even said it was a werewolf. He just said it's a beast out there that can't be killed with regular bullets. So you have to use silver. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like an extremist, and they're coming to Lawrence. Now, after Lawrence got bit, you realize that some time had to have passed, because a full moon shows up, like maybe the next day, maybe the next night, I think. Or is it that night? I think maybe that night. But, just like some time had to have passed between that full moon and the other full moon. So he's been, recuperating. He got bit on his neck and everything, and he was all scratched up. He's been recuperating for some time, and all of a sudden now you're coming here and you're just like, oh, it's his fault. Like, what? Why? It just doesn't make any sense. It's just all of a sudden people are starting believing this curse. Now, it was interesting in the original movie because people were trying to make sense of it. People were trying to understand what was going on. Here, they're just like automatically jumping to the fact that, hey, this guy is going to potentially become a monster. It may have been a monster. And, but it doesn't necessarily make sense. It's kind of like, why do you think that? Why, do you all of a sudden think that the Talbot household is cursed? Why is this just now showing up? Why didn't this show up beforehand? And even when Lawrence, before he transforms the first time, he's like, this place is cursed. And I was like, but under what evidence do you have to believe that? What's going on? Do you feel a change in yourself that's making you feel that way? It's never really explained. It's never really explained why the villagers are so against Lawrence. And even Hugo Weaving's character, Francis Aberline, which was a nice little touch, by the way. I kind of like that. Have the police officer from Jack the Ripper in the movie. And I was like, okay, that's a nice little touch, nice little head nod there and everything. But even he was just like, he's interrogating him like Lawrence is this is before Lawrence actually transformed. He's interrogating Lawrence like he's a prime suspect. And it's like, for what reason do you have to believe this? It doesn't make any sense. So here's what I was kind of thinking, is that somewhere along the line something got cut out of the film. Kind of like if you watch Batman v Superman. When Batman v Superman in the theaters came out, there was this whole ordeal where he was blamed for a bunch of soldiers being killed. But now we saw as the viewers saw the soldiers get shot. Why does Superman need a gun? What? Why are you blaming? All of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh, he needs to answer for his crime." What did he do? How do you have a right to blame him? Now, in the Ultimate Edition, Extended Edition, you see, like, after these soldiers are shot, they're burned up. The places around him are burned up, and it's made to look like he used his heat vision to do that. And then someone goes into court, and she's actually told to lie about what actually happened. Big, a big plot hole that was taken out of the movie is like, okay, this was a major plot point here. Why would you cut that out? But once it was put back in, it made so much more sense. You're like, oh, well, that's why. I'm like, I get it now. So here I feel like that same thing happened. Something was cut out of it. Now, when this particular incantation of Lawrence was a kid, he witnessed his mother's death. Now, he actually witnesses his mother's death at the hands of his father, and because his father is the original werewolf, unlike the original movie where the gypsy was the original werewolf, like his father was the original werewolf. And, he sees that, yeah, he killed her and everything. And he has been going through life with a suppressed memory. He's been sent to an insane asylum and then gets sent off by his father somewhere else. And if I'm being honest, I think he was kind of trying to protect him a little bit, but also trying to save his own ass, obviously. But he has suppressed that memory and is led to believe that his mother committed suicide. Now, I'm thinking, in some way, shape, or form, John Talbot has convinced the town that he murdered his mother. He grisly murdered, because the mother didn't just have one slice across her neck and hold it. No, her throat was torn up and everything. Somehow he convinced him that he did that. So it kind of makes more sense when he goes back to the insane asylum and stuff like that. It makes more sense as to why, things start to happen. Does it make complete sense? Is it a good plot point to kind of go by? It's no, how can a kid do that? But, it would have made more sense in terms of okay, why are these people acting towards him the way that they're acting? So, yeah, you get that. But, honestly, when things start going down, it's pretty entertaining, other than the gore sometimes, and you get one of the coolest werewolf versus werewolf fight scenes, in my personal opinion. It, again, got cut down, but apparently there was more to that in the unrated edition. There's more. It's a longer fight scene and everything, but it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cool. Some of the werewolf scenes are comical, and they're made to be comical. The bit where he's running on all fours, when they're shooting that from afar, it looks really good. But when they do the whole face close up thing, and you just see the arms doing that, it's just oh my gosh, this kind of looks silly. That looks really silly. Don't do that. Don't close up. Just stay from afar. It looks really cool from afar. The wolf howls and everything like that. There's plenty of good in this movie. The fact that Lawrence Talbot in this movie, he's more of a man of action than he is a victim. He's still very much a victim, but he wants to do something about it. He understands okay, something's wrong, or my father's doing something wrong. I want to do something about it. I need to stop him because I'm the only man that can. I'm the the only beast that can, to be perfectly honest. But like I said, at times Anthony Hopkins, as just the performance was a little distracting because he was always cold and kind of lifeless, but at times it was real intimidating. And those times when it was really intimidating, it really worked. And the whole he's accepted his fate as a werewolf. And there's a scene where we're right before they're about to fight, where they transform, and you see John just transform. No, really no problem. He just kind of you see the hair grow and then the teeth grow and then he starts snarling. He's already there. And you see Lawrence, who doesn't want to be a werewolf, but you see him still resisting, so it takes him longer. His transformations are still more painful, which leads me into the transformations. The first one they kind of teased a little bit when Lawrence transformed. That first one it was a little bit of a teaser. But when he's in the insane asylum and he's tied to the chair, you've seen it in the trailers, he's tied to the chair and he transforms. Oh my gosh. The effects and everything for this werewolf transformation were done by the same people that did American Werewolf in London. And that, to me, yeah, some of it's a little bit dated, but it looks amazing. It looks amazing for its time. This one, it made me hurt to watch him transform. It was kick the camera again. Excuse me, sorry. But it's just things would happen, his teeth would start falling out and start popping into place. It's his fingers were it's you saw his body morphing into something that was inhuman. It was golly. It was both painful and beautiful at the same time. They did their thing with it. The thing that hurt this movie the most was the pacing, the slow pacing, scenes that overstayed their welcome. The gore element, like I said, could have been cut down a lot, and just the storytelling. When I first saw this movie, I kind of liked it a little bit. I still kind of do. I like the good elements of it, but I do understand that it didn't live up to the potential it could have lived up to. It tried to be its own movie, which is great. I mean, hey, go for that. There was only like maybe a few head nods to the original. The effects, I gotta admit, they look pretty good. Especially for that time. The wolf, he looks, I guess they wanted to kind of keep it very true to the original and everything. So it kind of he looks very mannish and everything, but like the whole, like he gets on all fours, as long as they don't do the close up on the face thing, when he gets on all fours, it looks pretty darn cool. It looks like he could do that. His upper body just gets like really big, and it's like, it looked believable that he could do that up until they did the close-up thing with the face. So, if I had to choose between the films, like which one I would watch on a regular basis, obviously I'd choose the original. And I hated that this movie, the 2010 movie, wasn't as good as I was really hoping it would be. And I wanted it to be good, which is probably why I liked it more then than I do now. Since I really wanted it to be good. So, when you kind of live in that denial, it's like, no, this is a good movie. Just don't watch it at night. You'll fall asleep. But it's a good movie, and it's like, it's really kind of it's kind of It's one of those things like, you can, if you were to watch this movie, and if you're not really interested in this type of thing, you're not really interested in the horror aspect, by the time all the stuff starts going down, I mean, there's an awesome bus scene, like where like he knocks over this, not a bus scene, but like he knocks over this carriage and is carrying a bunch of people, and the wolf gets inside, and it looks like when Wolverine got out in X-Men Apocalypse. He's just ripping people, and it's actually really chilly, because it's like, if the movie, like the wolf attack scenes were more like that would have been great, because it didn't linger too long, it didn't show too much. It was just like, he landed in front of a woman, and you just saw him like, run, just scream, and then blood, and it was like, stop. And it was like, we immediately cut to the next person, or next person being attacked or whatever. Like, that was actually really good. That was a good action scene. If they were more of that in terms of the action and stuff like that. It's a little bit better storytelling. Like I said, there's no telling what actually happened in the production of the movie and stuff like that. I heard the director was replaced and stuff. So it's just one of those things. It didn't work out as good as it could have worked out to be. But if you were ever wanting to see like a more updated version, hey, feel free to red box it or something, pop it in. I said there's entertaining scenes about it, but if I had to choose between the two, I'd definitely go with the original. I kind of wish like there would be like an updated version of the original, but hey, it is what it is. So there you have it, guys. Those are my thoughts on the Wolfman, both the 1941 version and the 2010 version. What do you think of the Wolfman? Have you seen either one of them? Hopefully you have. If you haven't, definitely go check at least the first one out. And what did you think? Put it in the comments below. Let me know. And thank you guys for watching. I hope to continue this series later on. And, if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video.